So, for the next ostinato example, we have chosen to use the 3/4 time signature. This is not unlike the 12/8 time signature in our previous chapter, but it does have a slightly different feel. First of all, I'll bring the tempo down to 100 BPM. This example will help us with the structuring of dynamics, which is the subject of this chapter. In our previous chapter, we dealt with the question of how to increase dynamics by simply adding instruments. In this example, the dynamics are structured. By this, I mean that we start quietly and build up the dynamics throughout the ostinato section, or sections. If I play this section, I will start at a low dynamic level, like piano or even pianissimo, and I will build the dynamics throughout the 8 bars that you can see on the screen. One thing that is somewhat demanding about this approach is that when playing it in from the keyboard and trying to insert the accents, it is quite difficult. Playing very quietly and adding accents, and then slowly building over a period of bars, whilst retaining those accents, is not so easy. Now, after a single bar of 3/4 as a count-in, I'll play the following 8 bars of the cello. Of course, you can edit the dynamics afterwards by adjusting the velocity in the MIDI data. Certainly some people will be able to perform a section like this, but many will need to resort to editing the velocity to achieve the desired effect. It is important to rehearse sections that you are going to play, especially if we consider that different sounds will have different latency within those sounds. For example, if we go in and look at the MIDI data for the track I have just played in, you can see that I anticipate the notes somewhat. This is due to the string sounds coming slightly after I have pressed the keys. If I was performing the same section on a piano sound, then the piano, having a faster attack, will appear earlier. So running through the piece you are about to play will help you understand how the sound you are playing reacts. Now we can move on to the viola. I could have performed that somewhat better, but for this example's sake, it is perfectly acceptable. The viola played a different rhythm when compared to the cello, but the dynamics also increase throughout the section. Now we can add a violin track, and the violin starts playing after 4 bars. And finally we add the last instrument, which is the contrabass. If we look at the score, we can see that the dynamics are enhanced even more in the last bar of the violins by adding extra notes. So in effect, in the last part of violin 1, there are 3 notes playing rather than just 1 note. We can see here that I made a slight error in that I have already played both violin tracks into the sequencer, but I played them on the wrong tracks. The viola should actually have been the violin. The advantage here is that as we are dealing with MIDI data, I simply move the recorded data to the correct tracks. And now I can actually add the viola. We can listen back to this at a faster tempo, and I'll choose 120 BPM. The nice thing about this example is that we can hear the 16th notes being played, even though they are only being played on the cello. The other instruments are basically playing quarter or eighth notes, but the cello is the driving force of the rhythm. So now we can clear the screen and move on to another example in the following chapter.